Hello everyone and welcome. Today I'm going to talk about reading slumber. And I don't mean falling asleep while reading. I'm talking about that problem a lot of readers have and about a lot of book lovers have, where you just can't seem to get anything read. You don't feel like reading anymore, even though you are a big reader. Suddenly you can't even read a single page. You feel anxiety and you feel heaviness about reading. Those sort of things. I want to discuss that today, and it is something that I have struggled with a lot throughout the years, and I want to give some of my own tips on how you can get rid of that reading slumber and start enjoying reading again. So let's start with tip number 1. So tip number 1, read the things that you love. And don't spend any time on books that you are not interested in. A lot of the time when I'm in a big reading slumber, I look at the books that I'm currently reading. And I have like maybe 3 books that I'm reading. And one of them is a, let's say, 500-page long book. And I just can't get into it. I notice that I start reading it less and less. Every time I see the book on my shelf, I feel heaviness and I feel tiredness and just no joy of reading that book. And then I just think to myself, why am I even trying to read this book? Do I even enjoy the subject? Do I enjoy the story? Is this book even for me? And if that answer is no, then I just stop that book and start over with something I really love. So that's tip number 1. Read things that you really, really love. And tip number 2, set achievable goals with your reading and start small and gradually increase your reading. Let's say that you haven't read in, let's say, a month. You haven't read a single page. Why not start just one day, read 1 page, and try that for a week. And the week after that, perhaps 2 pages per day. Reading that small amount doesn't sound like a lot, but it's of course a lot more than reading nothing at all. And if you are reading books that you really love and you set a goal of reading 1 page per day, then when you have read that 1 page, sometimes you will feel like, well, one page was very easy, so why not read a bit more? And you naturally get into the mood of reading, because if it's a book you really love, then reading just 1 page won't be enough to to stop at, so you continue and read a bit more, and naturally you fall into that good old habit of reading again. So set small goals, very achievable goals at the beginning, like 1-2 pages per day, or like today I'm gonna read 5 minutes, and so on, and you will see that you will naturally fall into the mood of reading again. And tip number 3, we have mix up the types of books that you read. So if you are already reading the books you love and you still can't get into the mode of reading, you still feel that dread and anxiety, why not try mixing up the books you read then? If it's not working to read the things you love and are interested in, why not pick up, like, let's say you are only reading sci-fi novels, and you one day just feel, I can't read anything at all, I just don't want to read anymore. Why not try picking up like a short story collection, a poetry collection, a history book? Just trying to get something new in your reading habits, and maybe it will spark a joy of reading again. So tip number 3 is mixing up the books, types of books you read. If you are having a reading slumber with the books you love, then try that. And for tip number 4, we have read shorter books. And this is something that has worked very well for me, because I'm a member on Goodreads, and I track all of my books there, and I really like that feeling of completing a book and checking it off on Goodreads, or writing it down in my notebook, where I keep my my lists of all the books I've read. I feel that accomplishment of finishing a book is gives a lot of motivation and drive for me personally. So if I don't feel like reading, then I sometimes take a very short book that I can finish in a day or two, and I read that and I feel that accomplishment of, yeah, I really managed to read a full book. So that's a really good starting point, I think, to just read something very short that you can finish in a day or two. Because when you're having a reading slumber, then picking a book that is like 800 pages is really the worst thing you can do, because even if you're reading a lot, it can still take weeks or months to finish a book like that. So start very small and feel that you're making progress in your reading, and I'm sure you will get into enjoying it again. And for number 5, this is something also that has helped me a lot when I read those heavier books, those large books, and especially non-fiction, and that is note-taking while reading. If you are usually not taking notes, then the practice of note-taking can be very refreshing while reading, because you are activating other parts of your brain. You are not as passive as when you are reading, just reading normally. You have to think on the things that you find important in the text. You have to memorize and a lot of facts while you are writing it down, so you are more active in your reading. And I feel that helps me a lot when I read books, if I'm a bit more active sometimes, especially with those non-fiction books, and especially like history books and things like that. So note-taking is another thing that has helped me a lot when I'm in a reading slumber, or when I want to finish a large book that I have been trying to finish for a while. Then taking notes is something that has helped me. And tip number 6 is a bit similar to tip number 1, read what you love. In this number 6, it is revisit the books that you love, or books that you are familiar with and your absolute favorites. So rereading books. Rereading books takes away a lot of the dread of the unknown, when you are not really sure if you will like the book and you can't get started because of that. When you are rereading a book, then you are very familiar with what will happen, and you can just relax and enjoy the ride. You know that you can focus on the writing without having to focus on all the plot devices and all the characters and all of that. You are familiar with everything, and it's sometimes just a joy to go back to your old favorites. And that can absolutely spark the love of reading again, if you read the books that you have read before and that you love. And for the final tip, number 7. This is my own personal favorite. This is the one that has helped me the most, I think, when I've been in a reading slumber. And that is drinking or eating something while reading. It's as simple as that. But not just anything. Because when I have been in a reading slumber, and let's say it's a Saturday morning, and I want to be productive, I want to get something read, I want to read for, let's say, 1 or 2 hours. The thing I did was I started brewing my favorite tea, and I would sit and drink that while I'm reading. And so, after a while, I'll start connecting that pleasant tea session with reading, and the dread and anxiety of picking up a book and reading it just went away, and I can focus fully on the reading experience while I'm drinking tea. So that's just what has helped me so much when I'm in a reading slumber. And I guess it can work with anything, any food, any drink. You just have to get that connection between reading and enjoying that thing that you are ingesting. So you get that positive feedback whenever you are reading, and it will make you go back to it again and again. Just make sure it's something healthy, and that you're not eating a lot of like candy or chips or anything like that while reading, because then it can get a bit unhealthy in the long run. But yeah, reading while eating or drinking something is definitely something I recommend to get rid of that reading slumber. And actually, I've been thinking about making a specific series of combining especially tisanes and teas with with reading and different genres and different types of history books and connecting those with different types of drinks. It's something I want to explore, and I think I will try to record a couple of those videos in the summer months. But yeah, let's see. But that was all of my tips. I've talked enough now. Just want to ask if you have any tips for when you are in a reading slumber. What do you do to get rid of it? I would love to know that. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope to see you all next time. Read a lot and enjoy it. Goodbye.